Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled, and I'm joined with someone who I actually got to meet several years ago, Melissa Oden, who is actually an abortion survivor, and I want you to please tell us about your story. It really, I think, is one of the most touching stories I've heard. It made me cry when I heard it when I was in the Oval Office with President Trump and with Melissa and a group of abortion survivors who were with us at the time. So, Melissa, first of all, thank you for joining me on the show. And secondly, tell our viewers a little bit about you.
Yeah, that was February 14th. Of 2019. So my husband knocked it out of the park that Valentine's Day, right? I got to go to DC. But, I was so grateful to be there with you and with the president. And the reality is babies survive abortions. I know this shouldn't be a controversial topic in our world, but it is. The other side, the abortion industry and their lobby continues to deny that people like me exist, that abortions fail. But I have had to live this reality for 44 years. My birth mother, like many women, was forced to undergo an abortion. She was a 19-year-old college student forced by her own family to have that abortion. That type of abortion that was forced on her was the most common one back in the 1970s, a saline infusion abortion. It involved injecting a toxic salt solution into the amniotic fluid surrounding me in the womb. And the intent of that toxic salt solution was to poison and scald me to death. So over a 5-day period, which was actually longer than the standards of that procedure, I was being poisoned and scalded. On the 5th day, they finally successfully induced her labor, believed that I would be delivered as a successful abortion, kind of a la Governor Northam style. And that is the day that I was accidentally born alive.
So after that happened, what did they do? You were born alive, and what happened?
I wish I could say that Governor Northam's words back in 2019, right? We're going to lay the baby aside, we're going to make them comfortable, and then a conversation will ensue about what happens. I wish that I could be like the other side and say, that never happens. But it does happen, and I have lived that reality. I am adopted, but I was told years ago that when the abortion failed and I was accidentally born alive, my abortionist demanded that I be left to die. And as terrible as that is, really, Mercedes, the truth is even worse. My biological grandmother was a prominent nurse and was responsible for forcing that abortion, monitored it, and she is the one who told the other nurses to leave me to die. So when you look through my medical records, because I do have the records of the abortion that was performed and how I was accidentally born alive, you can tell that within 5 minutes I was nearly dead. That day, I was gratefully rushed off to the NICU by at least one nurse who was unwilling to follow those orders. But my life never should have been left in the hands of my abortionist. My life never should have been left in the hands of somebody doing the right thing that day. And so that's why born alive legislation is so necessary still in our world today.
Well, as you're 44 years old, you're the mother of 2 children, and you're seeing what's happening right now in terms of the pro-life movement, on what's happening here in Kansas with the Value Them Both Amendment. Are we making huge progress?
Oh, clearly we're making huge progress. That's why, we've seen people protesting lives like mine since the Alito leak, right? Yes, this is such a historic time, and it makes me emotional because I always used to tell my girls, maybe in your lives we'll see Roe versus Wade overturned. Maybe in your lives we will see a change in our nation, but now we get to see it in our lives too. Right. That we will see a culture of life restored, and we will have lives like mine protected. I don't think people can understand what it's like to live in a country where you have a right as a woman to have an abortion, but you didn't have the simple right to be born in the first place. So it's an exciting time, but it's a time to also not be complacent. And I appreciate that you and Matt talked about that here tonight, because this is a time that we have to dig even deeper. And we can't wait for someone else to do the right thing, or a more historic time to come, or a more, comfortable, safe time, fill in the blank. Now is the time that we continue to dig deep and do what we're called to do to make a difference.
And you wrote a book about this. Tell us the name of your book and where do you get it?
My first book is called You Carried Me, a Daughter's Memoir, so it is everywhere books are sold, but I'm really excited to tell you my second book is coming out in late 2022, early 2023 with a major Christian publisher. I can't say who it is yet, but I can tell you that this is an amazing book, and it's called Abortion Survivors Break Their Silence, And so I am telling the story of about 10 to 12 other abortion survivors and women who have had failed abortions and are parenting their children. We also don't hear from the women or talk about the women who have had the failed abortions that lead to children like me. So if the other side wants to deny our existence and push people under the rug, I am going to bring people's stories out into the light.
Well, I love it, and I love your passion, and I'm so proud of all the work that you're doing to make sure that we get this Value Them Both amendment passed through in Kansas August 2nd. Melissa Ohden, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I now have the great opportunity tonight to introduce our speakers for this evening. The last time I saw Mercedes Schlapp was actually in the Oval Office in DC. So it's nice to be back in Wichita and see Mercedes here. Matt and Mercedes Schlapp are veterans of national politics who had major leadership roles in 2 presidential administrations. A native of Wichita, Matt got his start in pro-life politics in Kansas before moving to the national stage. Currently, Matt is chairman of the Conservative Political Action Coalition, CPAC, while Mercedes is a senior fellow at the American Conservative Union Foundation. Alongside these roles, the Schlapps write for national publications and media sites, host a digital political show, and manage Cove Strategies, a strategic consultant firm. Married since 2002, the Schlapps live in Washington, D.C. with their 5 daughters. Please join me in welcoming Matt and Mercedes.
Okay, so
hello, everyone. How y'all doing?
hi. It's so great to be here. I told Matt we got off the plane and I just got so relaxed. I felt like I was home and I felt like I needed to take a vacation. And then Matt's like, no, we got to get to work, like right away.
You are home, sweetheart. I want you to know that, okay?
But although I saw Melissa in the Oval Office, this is kind of like an oval church, I think, right? No, it's wonderful to be here. So we love being back home. Grandma Sue has been taking good care of us. And really, I got to say, she's the matriarch of the Schlapp family. But, one thing that I love about being here is that you all are the heart of America. You're what's keeping this nation strong in such difficult times that we're facing. And we were talking to some of the pastors backstage, and we were saying how there's such a spiritual warfare going on right now in America, something that I don't think we have seen in a very, very long time. So what does that mean? We got to put our shield on. We got to take our sword and be ready for this big battle that we're facing. And it starts with this Value Them Both amendment. This is critical for the state of Kansas. And I know for us as parents of 5 daughters, and we spent a lot of time talking to them about the babies in the bellies. I'll tell you one story. Our 9-year-old, now 10, who I think she's like a Trump Jr. sometimes. She goes to class and she had a friend, 2 friends, Charlotte, and this was during the election period of time. So Matt and I were on the road a lot. Sweetie, I'm going to give you a chance to talk here in like a second. So sweet Lucia, who's hysterical, she's the one that on her vocabulary test would write "Go Trump" in the corner. And I was like, not a good idea. Like, not going to happen. Anyways, she didn't do that good in vocab. She had Charlotte for Biden and Charlotte for Trump. So she comes home one day, she goes, Mom, she goes, so Charlotte for Trump, we're good. She's going to vote for Trump. Mind you, she's 9. And then she goes, but Charlotte for Biden, I kind of told her. I said, look, Biden, he wants to kill the babies in the belly. That's no good. So what I'm trying to tell you, if the 9-year-old gets it, there's a way to talk about Value Them Both amendment to everyone. To your neighbors, to your daughters, to your sons, to your daughters' friends. there is a way to talk about this in a common sense way, because at the end of the day, the vast majority of Kansas they're with us. They understand the importance of this amendment to protect the women and protect our unborn babies. Okay, go, sweetie.
Good. So these are very well-behaved kids, Patrick. That's pretty amazing.
That's impressive.
First of all, ties on dress, not squirming, very impressive. That means it's all going to go downhill from here. Exactly. Let's talk very directly. I got involved in the pro-life movement in Wichita when I was in my 20s. No, I'm not in my 70s.
He had white hair back then, too. That's the truth. It was more black, white.
I know I look like Ty Masterson's father, but we're probably around the same age. But But seriously, in that 30 years, I always wonder when I turn on television or read the newspaper and people say, well, you know, we're almost to the point where perhaps we could consider ... And it just hit me the other day. Sometimes we don't think about the passage of time. How much longer are we going to wait to try to correct some of these wrongs? I mean, how much longer are we going to wait to the idea that people who call themselves pro-choice mean that people should be able to make certain decisions in their life? How about this idea in a democracy where the people get to set the laws?
Amen.
Right? So all of you who are wonderful advocates will go out there and convince your neighbors and your friends, the people you go to church with, your kids and your grandkids and their friends to uphold life. And that's the process we have in this country, this wonderful country, the greatest country, God blessed, that I think the globe has ever seen. And we should cherish this idea that people actually can get into that voting booth and make decisions on who's going to represent them. And I can't believe, Brenda Landry, you're still doing it. God bless you. You should never quit. You were back here when in that other time frame I'm talking about. We won't talk about that. But the point is we can't be so patient that it just never happens. And we can't be so docile that we literally let some people who just wear a black robe take the choice away from you. That's what they're doing. That's the irony. You fight the democratic process, the legislative process. You get good regulations passed, and they decide to say no, null and void. We've seen the Supreme Court do that over and over again on all kinds of topics. We see that here in Kansas. And that's why I think it's really important. I don't think there's a more important issue than standing up for the right to life. But what's next if they can just take this law away and say this law isn't there? How do they find words in the Kansas Constitution that just aren't there? We know that they're changing the meaning of everything, but you can't find words that literally aren't there unless you're not someone that's true to what's right. And that's what I would really encourage you to do. Look, I know you said in the intro that I'd gone national or something. I kind of took that as an insult.
Well, at least you didn't go woke, Schlapp. Yeah. You didn't go woke. That's a good thing.
I don't want to go national.
Don't go woke. You can go national, but not woke.
I want to tell the people in Washington, D.C., and the people at the UN, and the people at the WHO, and all these people who think they're smarter and more powerful, and they should be able to dictate the terms of our lives, and whether we even live or die. I'd like to send them a message right out of Wichita, right out of Kansas City, right out of El Dorado, right out of Newton and Hutchinson and everywhere else, that at least in Kansas, in this summer, in August, in the primary election, that a message was sent that we know how to govern ourselves, we know how to elect people to the legislature, and we know how to advocate for laws. And when we win a fight or lose a legislative fight, we have to deal with the fact that that's the law, and that's the way it is. Could you please, Kansas, all of you, send that message to the entire country and to the entire world? It would be a powerful message.
So as Melissa mentioned, she had the opportunity of joining a group of abortion survivors, also pro-life leaders in the White House during the time that President Trump was in office, and he really wanted to meet them. And one of the things that impacted the president was we live in the state of Virginia, where our former governor, Governor Ralph Northam, was that governor said, if the baby's born, but it was meant to abort the baby, just keep the baby comfortable. And that really impacted President Trump. And President Trump, there was always these questions, was he pro-life, was he not pro-life? One thing I knew when I spoke to him, he understood. He kept looking at us and saying, wait a second, the governor of Virginia said what? That means he wants to execute the baby. I mean, execute the baby. And it really stuck to President Trump so much that he wanted to learn more. And it was one of the reasons why he brought this dynamic group of people, including Melissa, to the White House. And so it really struck a chord with me because there was some individuals in the White House who were not pro-life that tried very hard to change the president's position. And every time there was a pro-life issue, he would call us, many of his pro-life advisors, to come in, and he sided with us every single time. And he really has been the most pro-life president in my lifetime, and someone who completely understood what it was to value life. And one of the lessons that he taught both of us is that the left will try to bully you, will try to call you names, will try to say you are anti-woman for supporting pro-life laws and pro-life policies. Well, let me make this very clear. The left has declared a war on women and on motherhood and on unborn babies. And so it is our job to take that back, to protect womanhood, to protect motherhood, and to protect the unborn babies. When you see these miracle stories of babies being born at 20 weeks, 22 weeks, and surviving and thriving, it just shows the beauty of science and technology, truly. And guess what? There is something called biology, okay? Let's just make that very clear. So, again, I think we stress the part here that you all now are part of this great army here in Kansas. Your voice is so valuable to go out there and stand up and fight for the unborn babies and to tell the story. Do it with love. Do it with compassion. And you'll get people there to really make this difference as we enter into what I would say is going to be a bit of a turmoil of a stage that we are in right now.
I think we all remember not too long ago in Kansas where we were notorious as a city for being a place where you could go and get late-term abortions. And many of you fought to make sure that our laws were changed, that we elected the right politicians. And what you have to learn, it's hard for us because we want to take people at their word. But what you have to learn is that the whole abortion movement is all predicated on lies. So don't be surprised when you read and hear about all the lies of this current debate that's going on in Kansas. They're going to tell you that if you pass value them both, a whole different world will appear than the 2019 world that was just described to you. Even if you took a poll, pro-choice, pro-life, Democrat, Republican, left, right, blue, red in Kansas or across the country, and you talk to them about taxpayer-funded abortions, incredibly unpopular. People understand that that's crossing the line. You talk about ending late-term abortions well past viability, obviously well past having a heartbeat, but could live outside the womb. These are overwhelmingly popular ideas. The idea that parents, who by the way are not domestic terrorists, but they are the most important governing structure for every child. I know because we have 5, and it's the only kind of big government I believe in is the big government of parents telling kids no, and this is right, and that's wrong. And by the way, I think that government needs to be very well funded too when it comes to disciplining these kids. But the point is that...
I think we should just tax the children at this point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's right. Totally. So the point is you will read and hear smears and slurs and untruths about what the intent is. And the intent is to go back to a law and to a series of laws that were passed through the process that many of you worked on. And these are common sense things. And then the final thing I always think is amazing is I love the slogan, value them both. I love what you've done to construct this whole campaign to save children's lives and to help women in crisis. But the thing I love the most about it is, why do the people that lecture us on caring about women and women's rights, by the way, they don't even believe in women anymore, but they lecture us about women and women's rights, how could they possibly be for a regulation that would make a clinic more sanitary and more safe and have an ambulance and have the ability to have all the care a woman might have, even if we disagree with her choice? We want her, if there's complications, even more complications from it, we want her to get the help that she needs. How can they be against that? How do we allow ourselves to be lectured? So I would say, in conclusion, please, this has been going on in this country for way too long. I was born in 1967. The Supreme Court got involved in 1973, 74, and went on and on and on. How much longer are we going to wait to bring some common sense to the idea of protecting the unborn? And there's a whole bunch of other things that we need some common sense on as well. But you have a very important moment, and these moments will come and go like a lightning bolt. Do not miss your opportunity to put off your vacation, to put off whatever the things that distract all of us. Stay focused on this. Get everybody to stay focused on it, because if Kansas sends this message, I think it's a very, very powerful statement that we know to be true, which is America is turning more and more pro-life. They just got to have the courage to say it and to act on it.
Yeah, and we cannot be China, we cannot be Korea, we cannot be these extreme nations that have these extreme abortion policies. It's outrageous that we have aligned ourselves with those countries that don't have God and that really push extreme abortion policies as well. I do want to add that, as we go through this process together in the next few months, pray. Pray for the women in crisis. Pray for those women who are trying to figure out what they should do when they feel so scared and so unsure. When they look at whether, do I go to Planned Parenthood or do I go to a live pregnancy center? Let's pray for these women. Let's pray for their unborn babies, that they make the right choices. Let's pray for this incredible campaign for Kansas Right to Life and all these leaders that are here, Danielle, Bridget, Melissa, Peter. They're really all the legislators who are involved in this process who are speaking out. We have to center ourselves in prayer. As we saw in Jeremiah 1:1, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. He knows us. He knows our hearts. And he's also given us great talents to go out there and take this cause and really convince people to go out and vote. Going door to door, calling folks on the phone. This is a moment in time that we can really make a difference. And I know, and it really means so much for you all to come out here tonight so that we can share together, be together, and be ready to take this on and win in August.
And can I add one other request? Let's all pray for America. America's in a very bad spot. If America continues to shred apart like it appears like it's doing, freedom lovers all over the world, anybody who cares about rights, women's rights, human rights, all of that whole cause is harmed if America is weakened and if America stops being America. And so pray for your country, because whenever we travel the globe and have CPACs all over the globe, they say the same thing, which is, if you guys turn to socialism and secularism in America, we're all doomed. So let's pray for our country. It's a really critical time. Are we done?
I think we're done.
Did we stay on time? All right, good. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you all so much. God bless. Hi, this is Mercedes Schlapp here with America Uncanceled, and I'm here in Wichita, Kansas with a friend of mine, Danielle Underwood, who's Director of Communications for Kansas Right to Life, and we are so excited that you're here, and we want to talk about this great event you all have put together.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to be here in Wichita because, this is such an important issue that Kansans are considering right now. And we are looking at whether or not our state will become a permanent destination state for unlimited abortion, or whether Kansans will reclaim our right to place reasonable regulations and restrictions and limits on the abortion industry. So this is a moment that all Kansans need to be making sure that they educate themselves what we're truly voting on, getting involved, and going to the polls on August 2nd.
Right. Right. So this is the Value Them Both Amendment. This is kind of an interesting situation that we're seeing here, because what they're trying to do is that you saw the Kansas Supreme Court, they basically allow for unlimited abortions. Is that correct?
So what happened in 2019, our activist state Supreme Court dramatically changed our state constitution, where they discovered an almost unlimited right to abortion. Right. Essentially, they made all of our existing laws that we had worked together so hard over more than 20 years to pass more than 20 life-saving laws. All of those became presumed unconstitutional with that one ruling. And so what Kansans are trying to do now is restore our Constitution to the way it was before that 2019 ruling. Eliminated all of our restrictions, all of our rules that we'd been able to pass. So what we want to do is make sure that we don't see a return of late-term abortions coming back to Kansas, that we don't become that permanent destination state and haven state for abortion. Just like the abortion industry made the state of California and New York into haven states, they're trying to do the same thing to Kansans and force it against our will.
And we're making sure that there's no taxpayer-funded abortions, correct? And that there's parent notification. So if there's a minor, that they would notify the parent if the child would be getting an abortion. Anything else that we're missing in terms of this amendment that our viewers should know?
So everything, it's termed the Value Them Both Amendment because it truly is about protecting laws that protect both women and unborn babies. And so we just believe that Kansans absolutely should have a say in what happens in our state, and that these unelected judges shouldn't have this ability to come and absolutely, do away with 2 decades of important laws that we've passed together. All of them were bipartisan passed, and all of them were fought against by the abortion industry. Even the most basic, the most simple regulations, it's crazy what they have fought against, and that they want to be unlimited in all of their actions. And so that's what we're stepping up to do, is to take this back.
And protect the women and the unborn babies. And that's why they're going to be voting August 2nd for the Value Them Both Amendment. Let me tell you, you have a grassroots army here. It's just amazing. Daniel Underwood, thank you so much for joining us on CPAC Now.
Well, I think with the values of regular Kansans, the state has always been, a conservative state, and we can be an example for the rest of the nation,
And do we really want to be known as the state that all the other states come to for abortion?
Yeah,
no,
right.
That is not something I want to be associated with. And those numbers we just heard in there are shocking. And if it weren't to pass, oh my, how many we would have coming.
Oh, it'd just be a floodgate.
Yeah, it'd be a floodgate.
Teenagers cannot be dropped off. They have to have a permission to receive an aspirin in high school, but they can load them up in a car and drop them off at an abortion clinic. And things like that just isn't right. And they have to know, and they're not paying attention. People they don't care anymore.
And we didn't take your stand. It's like you're 26. You listen to your parents, you listen to your grandparents, you listen to your neighbors, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, let's move on. I don't want to listen to it. But we have got grandchildren that are 22 to 25, 28. One of our little granddaughters, she's 35, going to have her 5th baby. That's a fistful. So this is how we believe. And even when we were young, I believe that, but you got to step out of the box and you have to have an argument, because everybody's not going to agree with you. And you don't have to have a loud, obnoxious argument. You just have to argue your point of view in a nice, calm way.
Yeah, the Value Them Both Amendment, which again, just the ignorance of people not understanding what the Value Them Both Amendment is. I mean, I would love to say that the passage of this amendment would end abortion in Kansas. That would be amazing, but that's not what it will do. It'll give us the ability to pass the legislation that was already there before our Supreme Court trumped the voters and decided that they were going to make law instead of interpret law. So yeah, the passage, the Value Them Both Amendment, it's necessary. It's necessary to save lives. It's necessary to keep taxpayer money from paying for abortion and for abortion on demand up to the time of pregnancy. And so it needs to be done. It needs to be passed.